All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Coach Devin Buchanan, creator of the Philadelphia High School Placement Bootcamp, and welcome to our first High School Placement Live, where we really help to break down the barriers and help parents and students both get the skills that they need and the information they need to get into what we call their best match high school. When we talk about best match high school, that really means finding the right fit for your child. Not just the one that we know about or the ones that we are informed on, but the fit that is going to be the best decision for you and your child moving forward. I'm super excited because today we have with us Brandon Herbert, who is the Director of Enrollment at Church Farm School. I'll let Brandon talk to you guys about Church Farm School, but I'm super excited to have him on here. Have a lot of just fond memories of Church Farm and just being kind of involved in that school throughout my life. And so excited to have you on. How you doing tonight, Brandon?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, brother. So it was, like I said, it was great to connect with you last week. But now we down to the nitty gritty. It's time to offer value to families, make sure that families don't just that they're aware of the options, right? That they don't just kind of just get stuck with what they know of, but are more informed. And so that's what this is all about. And so definitely glad to have you on. Just to kind of get us started, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, maybe some of your schooling background, and then what you do at Church Farm.
All right. So I'm Brandon Herbert. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. Born and raised. I was a student athlete. Played college basketball. Played Division I at Binghamton University. During that time, I would come home in the summers and I would work at educational camps. And that's kind of when I fell in love with education. After leaving Binghamton, I was trying to find my way in the world and end up getting a great opportunity in the Philadelphia area at another boarding school prior to coming to Church Farm. I'm a recent grad of University of Pennsylvania's Graduate School of Education. And I'm currently the Director of Enrollment Management here at the Church Farm School.
Awesome.
I'm an alumni of a boarding school in the Baltimore area.
Yes, great. And we definitely, you'll want to talk a little bit more about that because, I think that you bring a certain level of expertise when it comes to understanding the boarding school process and being able to help people understand how boarding schools can support them. So I'm definitely glad to have you on. So as we get into this discussion, ultimately the goal is to inform people about Church Farm, but ultimately let them know kind of about boarding schools in general and how Church Farm really is in an ideal place. So can you tell us a little bit about Church Farm, just, where it is, a little bit about the student body, facilities, just give us a little overview of the school.
So Church Farm, we are all boys high school, boarding and day school in Exton, Pennsylvania. So we're about 30-40 minutes from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Just not that far from King of Prussia Mall. But we're a college preparatory, all boys boarding school, small school. We sit on a large campus, 150-acre campus, and we have a total student body of about 150 students. 100% of our young men graduate, 100% of our young men go off to college. And I think one of the more unique things about Church Farm, well, actually, two pretty unique things about Church Farm. One is you think about access. People will talk about this, but a lot of people, when you think about boarding schools, especially people of color, you don't think it's really accessible to you. One of the great things with Church Farm's mission, and is actually written in our mission statement, to make a college preparatory education accessible to any and everyone. We provide a significant amount of financial aid to our families and our students to ensure that financial barrier doesn't hinder them from getting an amazing opportunity like Church Farm. And then also another pretty unique thing about us is that, especially when people think about boarding schools, you think about either think about two extremes. A place where you quote unquote send your kids for behavior issues and things like that. That's not us. We're far from that. Or you think about something you see in the movies, an elite institution that still doesn't feel quite accessible to many folks.
Yeah.
But Church Farm, our student population is we're about 95% students of color.
Yeah.
Which is very unique. And you think about the independent school as well as boarding school landscape.
No, it's amazing. I think the one thing that stuck out about for me is that campus feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you go away and you got roughly an acre per student, as what I heard. So there's plenty of room for students to go out there and grow, and then just your ability to support students of color, and how 95% of your student body are students of color, and I definitely want to talk about that. Not that everyone who is going to be seeing this is a student of color, but ultimately making sure that we're providing equitable education for all students. And so one of the things that I love that you pointed out when we first got there is the makeup of your admin. Can you talk about that? And then also, just how Church Farm goes about supporting those students?
Mm-hmm. So we at Church Farm School, we take diversity, very seriously. It's the focal point on everything we do. So you might hear that we're 95% students of color, but we're very diverse in that 95%.
Yeah.
We have Latino students, Asian students, Indian students, African American students, just honestly students that represent more so a global identity of what the world represents.
Yeah.
We have students with different religious backgrounds and so on. And then the makeup of our administrative team, which is very unique, especially to boarding schools and independent schools. We are five admin of color. We have a total admin team of 8. 5 are people of color, 3 are women. So we're very diverse in that sense, and we range from different ages.
Yeah. That's awesome. And when we talk about supporting students, I think, ultimately for me, one of the most important things is, do I have representation? Mm-hmm. Do I have people there that not just look like me, but can support me in my social emotional growth? And you definitely talked about how important that is there, social emotional learning. One thing that I loved, and we talk about the boarding school, and as we get into the myths, before we get there, I want to talk about a little bit of what the day is like at Church Farm. If somebody wanted to come out there, what would the day look like for a student at Church Farm?
So one of the great things about being in a boarding school environment is that students have access to learning as well as their learning environment 24/7.
Yeah.
So a typical day for our students, they'll wake up around 7, get dressed, head over to breakfast. So 7-8 is breakfast. 8 o'clock, their first class begins. They're in class from 8 to 3. We have block schedules, so the classes are about 65 minutes each. We have built-in study halls into our schedule. We have built-in office hours to our schedules where our students can get that extended help if they need it. And then from there, the school day ends around 3:15. Students will go back to their dorm rooms, change up for their afternoon activities. Now here at Church Farm, we do mandate that all of our students participate in at least 2 sports throughout the school year. So the students will participate in their afternoon practices or games between 3:45 and 5:45 each day. From that, they'll go on to dinner. Dinner's from 6 to 7. At 7, they'll go back to their dorms. They got a little bit of downtime, and at 7:30, they have study hall. So from 7:30 to 9 p.m. at night, they're in study hall each and every night. They have a little bit more downtime before, and then it's lights out. And they're repeating this each and every day. They're exposed to a lot of different opportunities, whether it be the arts, athletics, extracurriculars, service opportunities. But our students, their schedules are jam-packed. Their schedules are jam-packed. And the idea of that is obviously, as a college preparatory school, is to get them prepared for that next level.
Yeah. Growing up, so I went to a private Christian school that was in the same league as Church Farm. And so we spent a lot of time traveling out there, seemed like the forever long ride out to Exton. You get out there and you see somewhat what looks like some farmland, a kid from the city. And as you said, it always seemed like a place where, and you don't know, but
Mhm.
where you might send your kids, or where, and I want to make sure that we are able to kind of dispel some of those stigmas. And so, can we talk about some of the stigmas that are around boarding schools, even with your own experience?
Yeah. So I think I kind of touched on it. That idea of that, you're sending your child away, or as a parent, you can't handle your child for behavioral concerns and things like that. And that's not the case. The majority of boarding schools are great institutions,
Mhm.
And they provide a lot of different opportunities for their students. And then like I said, on the other end, you think for those great boarding schools, you might not think is actually an affordable option to students. And for us, we're in a unique position that it is. But a lot of other boarding schools also offer financial aid to make their school an available option. I know for me in particular, I was a full scholarship student at the boarding school I attended.
Mhm.
And without that support, I would not have been able to go there. It was a unique experience because I was definitely out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, it was something that was an adjustment that I didn't quite get comfortable with until my senior year. But looking back at it, now I'm 33 years old. I'm the director of enrollment here at Church Farm. Recent grad of the University of Pennsylvania. I have a wife. I have a daughter. That experience in my boarding school kind of laid the foundation for myself.
Yeah.
It also exposed me to a lot of different mentors, teachers, coaches, and friends. People that I call friends to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is one thing that you feel like you got from your boarding school that you think someone else can't get from another school? Or even what can you get from Church Farm as a boarding school that you maybe can't get? And I mean, I think of one thing in particular, but I want to see if you'll touch on it, and then maybe
So I think boarding schools in general, but I do think Church Farm in particular, we do an amazing job of this. Students are able to actually build relationships with their teachers, coaches, their dorm parents, and with one another.
Yeah.
One of our core values here at Church Farm is brotherhood, and that's really our sense of community. But our young men here, they take that seriously.
Mhm.
They support one another, they encourage one another, but they also hold each other accountable. So having that 24 access to adults that care about you, to students that are of a like mind of wanting to be successful, and also being in a diverse environment where you're living in a diverse environment.
Yeah.
We talked about how diverse Church Farm is in terms of our the way our students look, so to speak. But we have students coming from 12 different states.
Yeah.
So we're 150 students at our school. They're coming from 12 different states. They're spanning from New York to Georgia to Texas to California to Washington State. We also have international students here as well. So you're really getting a sense of students getting a chance to live and grow and learn and make mistakes in a very diverse environment, surrounded by people that care and honestly go the extra mile to support them.
Yeah.
Whether that's, after hours, after dinner, during study hall, you'll literally have your math teacher there next to you as you're going through your math homework to make sure they can support you that way. Or
Yeah.
waking up early on a Saturday and say, reach out to your teacher and say, hey, I didn't quite get this assignment, or I kind of missed this in class. Could you meet me over in the library on a Saturday morning? So
Yeah.
those experiences and building those relationships, and I think Church Farm does an amazing job of doing that with our students.
No, that's that's amazing. that's the one thing that you definitely touched on. And I think one of the other things was just brotherhood, right? Like having that woven into your core values and what's truly important makes it more than just a school, but really an experience for young people. So I think that's one of the reasons why I truly am on board with Church Farm. For kids that are coming, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, so and to speak to that a little bit more, the sense of brotherhood, like our relationship with our students, it's not transactional. They're not coming here for 4 years and then, you know, once they graduate, they're done with Church Farm. We want this to be a truly transformational experience where they emerge in everything that our school has to offer. And we support and follow our students beyond graduation. And then you'll see, you know, when we have our various alumni weekends or gatherings like that, the now men, they'll come back and they just talk about how great of an experience they had at Church Farm.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So thinking about the typical student that, you know, may be coming from Philadelphia, and for me, you know, one of my big goals, as I said, is ensuring that kids have an equitable education. And so taking the kid who, you know, is a solid student, you know, strong family, but just doesn't know of options or might not always have the resources there. One of the things that I did love about Church Farm is your financial aid and how you do support students. And so can you just talk a little bit about you know, how you guys work with in terms of, you know, tuition, but also financial aid and kind of like the income-based program you have?
Yeah. So, you know, we're fortunate here at Church Farm. We have a pretty significant endowment, which leads to our mission of making sure our college preparatory education is accessible, financially accessible. So for us going through the admissions process, you know, that's not a hindrance or for a family to ultimately come to Church Farm. So throughout that process, we take a look at a family's income, their debts, their liabilities, any assets they have, and get a complete total picture of their financial outlook. And then based upon those numbers, we're able to kind of provide a reasonable tuition amount which a family can pay. Yeah. And I would say, you know, more times than not, we're able to really meet families exactly where they are, to the point where, you know, if they choose to come to Church Farm, that financial burden throughout their time here won't that financial need won't be a burden on their family during their entire time here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to again, like, be clear, not every school and not to make, you know, put that portion out there, because I firmly believe that where your purse is, that's where your heart is, right? Like, you know, if you pay attention. And so I definitely believe that, because, you know, my parents paid for the education, because I recognize the value in a private education, that I never saw the negative in paying. But I do want to make sure that people understand that not every school has a significant endowment. Yeah. And so sometimes finances, even getting in the door, can be a hindrance. And so what we're saying is that Church Farm can be an option if you meet the first part, right? Like, if you are the quality student that they're looking for, then take that first step and allow them to meet you where you are, rather than just thinking that, oh, well, that number is too high, or I can't afford that, I can't do that. You know, you first got to take the first step. And that's why I wanted to make sure we mentioned that, because so many parents, they just don't know, and they won't even take that step. They won't even.
No, absolutely. So don't close yourself off from an opportunity. You know, all boarding schools, and independent private schools in general, they have these high price tags. but the majority of them want to make sure that they are diverse, not only racially, but socioeconomically. So there are scholarships available. There is financial aid available. The majority of the time, these schools are just looking for students that are the right fit for their community, for their culture. So do not look at the price tag and just say no. There are different opportunities, there are different scholarships available to students. There is opportunity there. As long as you meet that admissions criteria for that particular school, don't let the financial part scare you away.
Absolutely. That's great advice. That's great advice. So one of a couple of things that I wanted to make sure we touch on, and we're all about eliminating the barriers. And so I want to touch on, if somebody watches this and they're like, yo, I want to learn a little bit more about Church Farm. Can you talk about some of the things that y'all have coming up where they can get access and come see the campus, things like that, and then also talk about the application process? When does that begin, and where can people go to begin that process?
No, absolutely. So the first and foremost, you can go right to our website, which is GOCFS. So C is in church, F is in the farm, S is in school. So gocfs.net. That's our website. There's a lot of information about our academic program, athletics, student life, the whole gambit of what Church Farm has to offer to students. We do have an open house coming up October 22nd. You can go right on our website and register for that. Kind of the application process, it'll formally begin October 1st for us, but you can still submit inquiries and applications at this point. But throughout the application process, first of all, we're looking for students that are serious about their academics. In particular, most of the time it'll be AB students. But if you have a C here and there or a grade that's not quite at an AB level, that doesn't disqualify you from the process. One of the great things about admissions is that there's a lot of nuance and opportunities where you can show the potential of a student that it doesn't always come up in a report card. But we look at your grades for the current year and the 2 previous years. We also ask for teacher recommendations from a math, an English, and a guidance counselor. We also ask for, if you're able to, supplemental recommendations from a mentor, a coach, a pastor, someone else to kind of attest to a student's character. For us in particular, being in a boarding school environment.
So a little technical difficulty. We got Brandon back, so that's okay. Not a problem. So we were just talking about, remind me what we were talking about. Do you remember?
We were talking about the application process.
Yes. So go CFS. I have put that in the chat for any of you who are going to watch the replay as well. And I'll also make sure that it is in the link of this live stream. So gocfs.net is where you can start. But what Brandon, really, I believe you were talking about was for students who might not meet the initial criteria or might have a C, that is not the gambit. It's not everything. That they also, look at letters of recommendation from your pastor, from the coach, things like that as well.
Yeah, so we all know, like I said, grades and report cards don't tell a true story all the time, of a student's, current academic ability as well as their potential. And unfortunately, all schools aren't created equally.
Yeah.
So we do take in strong consideration, teacher recommendations.
Yeah.
We also ask for students to take standardized testing. But for us, standardized testing, it doesn't make our admissions decisions for us. It more so gives us a kind of an even playing field. Because as I mentioned before, we have students coming up from literally all standardized tests. It allows for us to kind of get a true sense of where all students are.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't make our decisions for us. So we look at your grades, your teacher recommendations, test scores. And then if you're able to, we ask students to come to campus for a shadow day where they'll get a chance to actually spend a day with students in class, get a chance to talk to teachers,
Mhm.
get a true sense of what our community is all about and what the day in the life of a church farm student is.
Awesome.
And we also do admissions interviews.
Okay.
Uh, and if you aren't able to actually physically make it to campus, we will still do we could do a Zoom interview with students and families.
Absolutely.
We also hold different information sessions throughout the year just to get give families a better sense of who we are and how we go about serving our students.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So we will take all of that information, and admissions committee, which is made up of myself, assistant director of admissions, and other faculty and staff members, and we review students' files.
Mhm.
And at that point, kind of to the very beginning of how you started off this session with us, you talked about fit. So fit is the most important thing, not only for the school itself, but for you as a student, you as a family. You want to find a school that's the right fit.
Mhm.
The school that can serve your student, whether they have athletic aspirations, they're involved in the arts, particular academic programs or service opportunities or things like that, that fit your needs as a family, academically, socially, and ultimately financially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you want to make sure that you're finding a school that's the right fit for you. And that's the same thing that we're doing from an admission standpoint. We're looking for students that's the right fit. And that's why I said, if you have a grade here or there that's a little bit lower than an A or B, it doesn't disqualify you from, being admitted.
Yeah.
We've had students that have straight A's and scored off the charts on the standardized testing. But when we look at recommendations and get a chance to meet them and things like that, we're like, nah, this student probably isn't the right fit for church farm.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite end, we might have a student that, maybe has 2 C's and, standardized test scores are just okay. But they're coming with strong recommendations. Their teachers speak highly of them. When we get a chance to meet them in person or meet them through a Zoom, they present themselves in a way, that shows that they are hungry for the opportunity. And that's something that we take into account.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, obviously we want students to want to be here. And as I mentioned before, this isn't for everyone. It is hard. Our students work hard.
Yeah.
They're given a lot of support. We have really high expectations of them. And they're given support along the way so they can meet and exceed those expectations. But it is work.
Yeah.
It is work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just to close out, I think that's what a lot of young people need right now. To me, boarding school is more and more attractive with all of the different things that are going on in schools, particularly sometimes with public school education. Don't have any problem with public school education, but I've never been a fan of a cookie cutter education. So I think that when you talk about the program that Church Farm offers, I don't know if we talked about class size, but with only 150 students, class sizes are 8 to 10 students
Yep.
in a class.
Yep.
8 to 10. Y'all hearing me? 8 to 10 students. So that when Brandon talks about the ability to be able to meet your teacher, get to know them, build relationships, those go a long way. When you can call your teacher after you graduate or, reach back out and that person's a mentor, that person is somebody that you can reach out to and be a confidant, that's super important. And not everybody gets that in their high school experience, which is why I'm so geared on ensuring that we not only know what the options are, but that we have access to these equitable educational options as well. And so Church Farm is definitely one of them. As I said, I'm going to drop the link for Church Farm in the link for this live stream. Also, if you are watching this, and you feel as though you need to be prepared that maybe your child is a good option for a church farm or for a boarding school or for a private school, click the link below and join our boot camp so we can help to prepare you. We help prepare students with school visits. We go through the application process, financial aid process. We do essay review, interview preparation, and ultimately mentorship to ensure that your child is prepared for a school like Church Farm. And so if you're watching this and you just need that support, go ahead and click the link below, and our team will be glad to help you guys out. Brandon, is there anything that you want to share with our viewers who are going to see this? If you're anything you want to share about Church Farm before we head out.
So I'll say this just in general. The application process to a boarding school or independent school can be a little bit intimidating. So definitely take Coach Buchanan up on his offer to help support you throughout the way. It's something where they ask for a lot of information. It's a lot going on. So the more support you can get in the process, the better. But I'll say for those that are considering Church Farm, I would love just to have you come out and visit our campus. I think, seeing us live and in person is probably the best way to get a true feel for who we are and how we go about serving our young men. At the end of the day, students are coming here and they want to be successful. Their families want them to be successful. And that's the end product for all of our graduates. So, if you're interested in learning more about Church Farm or the boarding school experience, even if you want to reach out to me directly, that honestly has nothing to Church Farm.
Yeah.
The whole reason why I work in education and have the job that I do, because I think all students should have access and opportunity for an amazing education. I was personally fortunate enough that some coaches and mentors and my mom thought pretty highly of me and wanted to take the extra step and give me an opportunity, something different than I would have gotten at my local public school. They forced me out of my comfort zone, and it was truly life-changing for me. So just want to make sure that our all families know that this is an option for you. It is accessible. It is something that you'll get support throughout the process, and your students, if they're willing to put in the effort, they can be truly successful in one of these boarding school or independent school environments.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, man, I appreciate you joining us tonight, blessing our community with your information, your knowledge, and sharing about Church Farm. As I said, guys, all the information is going to be below in this link on the live stream. Again, if you need support, click the link, join our boot camp, and we'll see you guys soon. Remember, we are out here to break down those barriers and provide an equitable education for all students. We'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.